Wintertime here in central and western New York State. Do you know what this means? It means it is time to make soups. Let's go make some. So hey everyone, thank you for joining me for another episode of Not Ready for Food TV. And like I said, it's a cool winter day. Technically, not quite winter, but around here it's wintertime. And we're going to start making soup. We're going to talk about it for half a second. What I'm going to be making today for myself is chicken noodle soup using leftover rotisserie chicken. Now for the vegetarians and vegans who watch this channel, not to worry, because I'm also going to talk about how to turn this into a vegan or vegetarian soup. Super easy. The big difference between vegetarian and the chicken noodle soup I'm going to be making is what you use for your stock and what you use for your protein. Use vegetable stock instead of chicken stock, you're halfway there. You need a protein source that could be either mushrooms or broccoli. Take a look in your refrigerator. Are there veggies that need to be used up? Great time to use them. Here I have a mirepoix mix. It's celery, carrots, and onions that need to be used. A baked potato that's aching to be eaten. And some mushrooms that need to be used. Here we have our mise en place. Our mise en place simply means all of our preparation put together. So we pre-dice all our veggies, get our seasonings ready before we begin. This makes cooking a lot easier, a lot faster, a lot more enjoyable. We already talked about our celery, carrots, and onions, which is the base for most Western soups. Here we've taken chicken breast, diced that up, diced up our potatoes so they're bite-sized. Mushrooms are still alive, so just wipe those off. And here we have some frozen peas and pearl onions that need to be used up. They're only partial bags. I love my veggies. And the more colors you have, the more appealing it is to the eye. And every color brings different vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. Be colorful. You know you use a lot of olive oil when you start buying it in 3-liter jugs. So here we have our pan, a little bit of olive oil, and now our mirepoix. I've had people ask me for more precise measurements. I tend to be a carefree cook in that phrase. Thank you, Chef Todd Moore, for that phrase. And this would be what I consider a pinch of salt. I simply cut my hand like this, and I'll just sprinkle it in like this. So these are going to be our primary seasonings for our soup. We have rosemary at the top, which has a very pine-like flavor and scent, sage, and then thyme at the bottom. This would basically be the holy trinity of poultry seasoning. Since we're talking about using fresh herbs in this soup, what I've done is I've simply taken the entire stalks and thrown them here into the soup. We'll let them render their flavor, and then we'll remove them so we're not getting sticks and things like that in it. That's not so good. So I've added the potatoes, the mushrooms, peas, onions, because I like lots of veggies. Everything right now is completely vegan. At this point, you can go one of two ways. You can use vegetable stock and keep it a vegetable soup, or add chicken stock. If you go vegetarian or vegan, you could add broccoli and or probably white cannellini beans. Get them already soaked and put them all, the whole thing, canned juices and all, right into the soup. Put the cover on, let it simmer for about 10 minutes and add in the noodles. And then let that cook for another 10 minutes. Should be ready. How much stock should you add in? That depends on how thin you like your soup. For what we've done here, I'll use at least a half a container, at least a pint of stock, be it vegetable or chicken, and then add as necessary to get to the consistency that I want. So with this, I've added 2 cups or 1 pint of chicken stock and my chicken breast. You can see it's going to be very thick, primarily veggies versus broth or stock. This is how I like mine. So I've covered the pot, bringing it to a boil, and lower it to simmer, and I'll let it simmer for 10 minutes. At that point, I'll check to see how much stock there is in there. If I need to add a little more, I can add a little more. It's not going to affect much of anything. If I do add, I'll let it simmer another 10 minutes, and then the noodles. So it's been about 10 minutes, and I've removed all the herbs from the soup. If you leave them in too long, they start to get a medicine-y taste, and that's not tasty. Took a little sip of the broth. It's coming along wonderfully. Almost ready. If you wanted to go without any gluten at all, this right here is perfect and ready to serve. What I'm going to do is add the rest of the stock and then add some noodles to it because I like my chicken noodle soup. The reason I added the remaining chicken stock here to the pot is that the pasta I'm going to use, the noodles, will absorb some of this and thus reduce it. If I had not added more stock to the pot, I would have run out. So it's back on high. I'm going to let it come to a boil, then bring it back down to a simmer in terms of heat, and we'll let it go another 10 minutes, and this way we'll be ready to go ahead and add the pasta. I've added in a quarter bag of thin egg noodles here to the soup and mixed them in. Bring it back up to a boil again and about to reduce it to simmer. I like egg noodles in my chicken noodle soup. Orzo would work just as well. The advantage of making soup over a full meal, like potatoes and a side dish of veggies, is that you can warm people up from the inside, great on a cold day. It's also a wonderful way to stretch your food budget. Today's day, it's important. And if you've watched any of my other videos, odds are you've heard me talk about cleaning up as you go. I have a shared kitchen space, which makes it important that I clean as I go so that other people can come in and cook. It keeps it safe, keeps it clean. So our soup has simmered for another 10 minutes. Make sure noodles are done. And the smell's amazing. The broth is perfect. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to eat. So until next time, here's cooking with you. I've had some people ask, how do you watch as you go along? It takes a lot of time. Well, not as much as what you might think. It's important to know that if you have a 2-bay sink like this, you have 1 bay filled with soapy water, dirty dishes go here, and then the clean dishes go here. So as you go from wiped here with a sponge, over here to the clean bay, don't rinse yet. Let it get filled, and then you rinse everything at one time and put it in the dish rack. It saves a load of time. How do I know that this is the best way of how to do it? Simple. Experience. Nowadays I play with food for a living, whether it be making pizza, subs, wings, prepping food, packaging food, getting things ready. This is the most efficient way to clean your dishes. And I know budgets are tight, but this is one time where I'm going to strongly urge you to get a name brand detergent as opposed to a store brand detergent. My first career, I was a product development chemist. There is a big difference. It's worth the money.